Andrea, if you're one of a number of councillors on the City Council in Vancouver, and what you demonstrated to us earlier on is that you've been quite a courageous City Council in terms of some of the legislation and some of the policy setting that you've put in place. But if you were the council rather than a councillor, what are some of the things that you'd like to see over the next short period of time, and perhaps in the longer term as well, just to sort of understand that some of these policy settings do actually take some time to implement?
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, because we don't have a ton of power as a council in the Canadian context, we think a lot about the kinds of powers we wish we had, the kinds of legislation that we'd like to make. First and foremost, carbon pricing. Like, without a price on carbon, it becomes almost impossible for us to be able to work with our businesses, with organizations, with individuals. So we're fortunate to be in the one jurisdiction in North America that has a price on carbon, and that's made a huge difference for us. At the same time, we just a month ago finally legislated absolute greenhouse gas limits that a building can produce per square foot, because you need the incentive of the carbon pricing to help drive the change. But at some point, because we don't have all the time in the world left on climate change, you do need to start legislating these absolute limits. And the last thing I would say is, the longer we wait to do things like provide incentive programs and like putting a price on carbon, the more it just becomes an essential reality that things will be legislated. So the sooner we provide things like carbon pricing, the more we're giving the market the choices that will allow it to make better decisions than we're going to have to make in a few years' time if we don't do that soon.
Perhaps just to stay with you, just in terms of the SMS, Andrea, that's just popped up on the screen, and referring to your relatively new Prime Minister Trudeau, how do you see the City of Vancouver working with the Canadian federal government, given, I mean, Canada obviously, as this SMS is talking about, very reliant on resources like Australia, but how do you see the city collaborating, working in partnership with Prime Minister Trudeau, where there might be different objectives?
Well, he's definitely just a radically more positive person to work with than our previous. Sorry, I'm struggling for adjectives. It's a bit of jet lag and a bit of just trying to be diplomatic about the two different prime ministers. He's also much better looking, which doesn't hurt. But really, I mean, he's been fantastic in understanding urban agendas, because green is just a surrogate for using resources more efficiently, right? So urban areas must do that. We don't have any resources. In Vancouver, we literally don't have an inch of space to waste. So having a prime minister who understands waste, water, energy conservation is imperative to urban areas not just surviving but thriving in the next decades coming has been fantastic. That being said, he also has made what we think is a very bad trade-off by approving this pipeline that we've been trying so hard to stop. The reality is the market will likely kill that pipeline by the time it gets to the point. They currently can't find investors for it, because while our Prime Minister hasn't yet figured this out, the world has figured out there is not a future for expensive, dirty energy. So we'll keep working on getting him educated on that front, but appreciate the support he's given us on city policy.
Thanks, Andrea. So I'll go to the audience. We'll go down the back here.
Oh, hi. Yes, I had a question regarding the national electricity market and legislation around that. My name's Arnel from Buildings Evolved, by the way. The question was, there's a couple of inquiries going into the national electricity market at the moment, the Finkel review and the parliamentary inquiry. I was wondering what the panel's view of the national electricity market was, considering when it was designed, and the rather frank assessment of the preliminary report that it was a system designed for the 1950s and is no longer really working for us. I was wondering what the panel's view of that was, and yeah, thanks very much.
I'm happy to take that first. I actually sit on the COAG Energy Senior Officials meetings and attend the COAG Energy Ministers meetings, and I tell you what, it's been a really rough trot. In the 4 years that I've been attending those meetings, at the beginning we couldn't mention the words carbon or climate change, so the ACT actually injected ourselves by using the word resilience. we have got to be on the front foot about planning for the resilience of our energy sector. We have got to view the energy sector as critical economic infrastructure, no less than we do our freight and our ports. So that is something that is very difficult for this sector to understand because it hasn't been thinking strategically about the long-term needs of infrastructure. It's been done on bits, on a bitsy sort of way. The Finkel report provides a really fantastic opportunity to start looking at the sector strategically, and I'm very hopeful, despite the very unhelpful national discourse, I'm very hopeful that the Finkel review is actually injecting some intelligence into strategic thinking for the sector, so I have some hope for the future.
Right down the back. Sorry, Jeff, I'll come to you in a minute. Microphone's down here.
Yeah, Nadia Landis. First of all, congratulations to all of you for really showing leadership. I think you've all done a fantastic job. First, I've got a question for the whole panel, but also for Andrea. Andrea, kind of like, obviously Vancouver is on a global scale, fairly small cities. Do you think that as long as you're saying somebody with a capital letters right next to their name has a vision, that it actually can be easily transferred to basically any city of any size? And then also interested just with every one of you, in terms of costs, how have costs actually affected your decision-making processes in getting these targets written down and following up with actions? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think it does. In fact, we were just talking before this about how lucky Sydney is to have 20.3 tons per capita of carbon, because how easy would the reductions be, right? They could get to 10. So I think everyone has opportunities. And I think if the problem were if we were down to the last little things we had to do on climate, it might be an argument about who can go or how they can do it or whether or not this was possible. The reality is this is a massive problem with literally thousands of points of entry. It's like a banquet table of ginormous proportions. So anyone can start eating at this banquet table of figuring out how to reduce carbon emissions, no matter what size, no matter what challenge, no matter how many emissions they're producing right now.
Raynuha, perhaps just one for you to bring you into the conversation here. You talked about some of the great outcomes that you're achieving at Springfield, and one of the things you did emphasise was this notion of partnership with government to get effective legislative frameworks around the project and some of the policy settings. What do you think you need to do within your company to actually continue to develop those relationships and take this idea of collaboration even further?
I think and it kind of answers the question before, but it's leadership. I think in the case of governments, local, state or federal, they are looking for solutions, and it is about our industry, about presenting those solutions. Government has enough problems. They don't want us to go and present another problem to them and try to get them to fix it. They want solutions. And as an industry, we're innovative, we're nimble, we can get to solutions pretty quickly. We've got resources, we've got consultants. Let's find those solutions and take them to government. Be the providers of solutions. I think that's something that we can do really well. And the other thing is leadership. I think in our community, whether it's government, whether it's our people that come to buy homes in Greater Springfield, they are looking for, well, what is this all about, and how do I play my role? And just to give you a small example, we launched one part of our project which has extremely sloping land, and some of the lots with 8-9 metres of slope. We didn't want people to bench them and do the typical bench and retain, and we said to ourselves, let's build a display village on the most sloping ski slope land that we have, and demonstrate, I guess, the greener ways of building. Got some friendly builders on board, which is, as you know, really difficult. And but they came along, people saw these homes, they were amazed, and they said to us, and we'll come back when you've got sloping land.